You're Diane. You're 64. You're sitting at your kitchen table with a mug of coffee that went cold 20 minutes ago because you've been staring at a number on your laptop screen. $2,540. That's it. That's Social Security plus your pension from 31 years at a regional insurance company, 31 years of fluorescent lighting and birthday cake in the break room and pretending to laugh at Dale's jokes, and the system looked at all of it and said, "Here's $2,500 a month. Go be free." And you know what? Your first reaction isn't panic. It's, okay, I can work with that. I've always been good with money. I've got a spreadsheet. I color-code it. Green for paid, yellow for due, red for overdue. I print a fresh one on the first of every month. $2,500 a month. That's not luxury, but it's not nothing. You could make that work, right? Let's find out, because I'm going to walk you through every single dollar of Diane's $2,540, and somewhere around $2,300, something is going to happen that should change how you think about retirement for the rest of your life. But first, remember a name, Marcus. He's 41. He's got $23,000 in a 401k he hasn't looked at since the Obama administration. We'll come back to Marcus, and his number is worse than Diane's. Diane's $2,540 arrives on the second Wednesday of every month. Not the first, not a round date, the second Wednesday. Retirement doesn't even have the dignity of a predictable payday. $1 through $170, gone immediately. Medicare Part B premium, auto-deducted before she ever sees it. We're 10 seconds into retirement and we've already lost $170. Diane is now working with $2,370. But Medicare Part B doesn't cover everything. Doesn't cover most dental. Doesn't cover hearing. Barely covers vision. And the 20% co-insurance on everything it does cover has no annual cap. So Diane, like a lot of retirees who've done their homework, has a Medigap supplemental plan, $182 a month, and a Part D drug plan because Medicare doesn't cover prescriptions on its own, a sentence that shouldn't make sense, but absolutely does in America. Another $39. We're at $2,149. We haven't left the healthcare section yet, and Diane has already spent $391. 15% of her total income, gone before she's bought a single egg. Diane owns her home, which is the single luckiest financial fact of her life. But owning a home in retirement doesn't mean free. Property tax, homeowner's insurance, and the maintenance nobody budgets for. The roof that happens, the water heater that happens, the furnace that happens, totals $644 a month. Diane's at $1,505. She hasn't left the house yet. Utilities, electric, gas, water, trash, internet. She dropped cable 2 years ago. She kept internet because her grandkids FaceTime her on Sundays, and she would rather eat rice for a week than lose that. $285. $1,220 left. Food. Diane is not eating out. She's cooking every meal from scratch, which in your late 60s isn't a lifestyle choice. It's a second job. $340 a month, $11.33 a day. She hasn't bought name-brand cereal since 2019. $880 left. Car, insurance, gas, maintenance, $273. She drives a 2016 Civic and plans every trip in a loop so she never backtracks a mile. She used to drive to the lake on weekends with a book. She stopped when gas hit $3.80 and never started again. Phone, $45, prepaid, no frills. She uses her daughter's Netflix login, which her daughter doesn't know about, which Diane feels guilty about, which is the most American retirement emotion I can think of. $562. And here's where the spreadsheet starts turning yellow. There's no line item yet for clothing. For household supplies, toilet paper, dish soap, a new bath towel when the old one finally disintegrates, for a haircut, for gifts, for the grandkids' birthdays, for a modest Christmas, for the copay when she goes to the doctor, for replacing her glasses if she sits on them, for any single thing that is not a biological necessity or a legal obligation. Diane budgets $280 for all of it. She calls it everything else. She writes it in blue ink because she ran out of color code categories. $282 remaining. $282 a month. That's $9.40 a day. That is Diane's retirement. Not the $2,540, the $9.40. That number is what separates surviving from living. That's the gap between I'm retired and I'm free. $9.40. You know what that buys? A Chipotle bowl. 1. That's your day. You had your Chipotle bowl. Freedom accomplished. Now hold that number in your head. $9.40. Because we haven't talked about what happens when something goes wrong. And something always goes wrong. It's April, 7 months into retirement. Diane bites into an apple, a Honeycrisp, which at $3.49 a pound was already a splurge, and feels something shift. Not crack, shift. The way a building shifts before it falls. She needs a crown. $1,275. No dental coverage. Payment plan, $225 a month for 6 months. Just like that, Diane's daily freedom drops from $9.40 to $1.90 for 6 months because she bit an apple. Same month, her granddaughter Lily turns 7. Lily's party is 90 miles away. Diane doesn't calculate whether she can go. She knows she's going. Some math you don't do because the answer doesn't matter. You're going. She buys a book and a stuffed animal, wraps them in paper she already had, drives 90 miles, walks in, smiles, eats 1 slice of cake, says she's watching her sugar, drives home in the dark, doesn't turn on the radio because it makes the drive feel longer when it cuts to commercials. Nobody at that party knows that showing up cost Diane 11 days of freedom. Now, who designed this? Because this isn't a story about Diane being bad with money. Diane is extraordinary with money. Diane could run the Treasury Department with a Bic pen. This is a story about a system that took 31 years of someone's labor and converted it into $9.40 a day of autonomy. And somebody profits from you never seeing that number. You've seen the Medicare Advantage ads. $0 premiums, free dental, vision, hearing. What they don't tell you, prior authorizations that delay care, narrow networks that may exclude your doctors, and out-of-pocket maximums up to $8,300 a year. When you're healthy, it feels like a steal. When you're sick, it feels like a trap. And here's the lock on the door. In most states, if you try to switch back to original Medicare with a Medigap plan after your first year, insurers can deny you or charge you more based on your health. You signed up when you were well. You can't leave now that you're not. But the most uncomfortable beneficiary of your ignorance? Present tense, you. The $9.40 number is so uncomfortable that your brain is already building a reason to dismiss it. That won't be me. I'll have more saved. That flinch is the most expensive financial reflex you own. The $9.40 doesn't create anxiety, it creates rage. And rage doesn't buy financial products. Rage demands answers, which is exactly why no one in the industry will ever show you this math. Let's talk about Marcus. Marcus is 41, $58,000 a year. 3 work shirts he calls minimalism. It's not minimalism, it's just being 41. Contributes 3% to his 401k because that's what the form defaulted to, and Marcus has never voluntarily changed a default setting in his life. His phone is still on the ringtone it came with. His employer matches the 3%. Give the market a generous 7% over 26 years. At 67, Marcus's total retirement income, portfolio plus Social Security, lands around $2,817 a month. That's $277 more than Diane. Daily freedom, about $12. And that's the optimistic scenario. That assumes Marcus never touches the 401k, never raids it during a job loss, never borrows against it during a divorce, never cashes it out during a move because the penalty felt abstract and the moving truck deposit felt very, very real. The median American has withdrawn from their retirement account at least once by age 50. But here's the number that should be tattooed on the inside of his eyelids. If Marcus increased his contribution from 3% to 8%, an extra $60 a week, basically the DoorDash habit he won't admit he has, his retirement income jumps by $833 a month. That's the difference between $12 a day and $39 a day, between counting every mile on the odometer and driving to see someone you love without doing math in the car. $60 a week. That's the gap between what I'm about to show you and something that actually resembles a life. Gerald. It's 5:45 a.m. outside Dayton, Ohio. Gerald is 71. He's standing in his kitchen making instant coffee, not because he prefers it, but because a can of Folgers Crystals lasts 6 weeks and a bag of ground coffee lasts 2. At 6:15, he fills the bird feeder he built from scrap wood and a plastic bottle. Cardinals are year-round. Cedar waxwings come in January. He knows their schedules because he's home every day with nowhere to be and $7.80 to spend. Gerald worked the same machinist job for 38 years. His pension disappeared when the plant changed owners. The lump sum he rolled into an IRA got destroyed in 2008, and what was left went into a savings account earning 0.03%, where it's been quietly decomposing ever since. He did what he was told every time, and the system ate his safety net anyway. Now Gerald works 12 hours a week at a hardware store. He told his son he wanted to stay active. His son believed him, because it's easier to believe your father is choosing to work at 71 than to sit with the alternative. After taxes, the store adds $540 a month. That money is what pays for the dental cleaning. That money bought his grandson a birthday present last year. Gerald calls himself semi-retired, which is a word that means, I can't afford to stop, but I'm too proud to say that out loud. And here's what nobody tells you about a $2,500 retirement. The poverty line isn't a number, it's a condition. From the moment Gerald opens his eyes, his brain is working. Not on a hobby, not on a project, on math. Should I drive to the store today, or wait until Thursday when I'm already out for my shift? Is it cheaper to run the heat at 66 all day, or use the space heater in one room? The bananas are 69 cents a pound. Buy extra and freeze them? Every hour of Gerald's retirement is organized around cost. Not because he's cheap, because when your margin is $7.80 a day, every decision is a financial decision. What to eat, where to go, whether to go at all. Gerald isn't broke. Gerald is busy, doing the full-time unpaid work of making not enough look like enough. That job doesn't have weekends. It doesn't have vacations. It doesn't end until he does. Last October, Gerald's granddaughter B, she's 10, asked him to come to her soccer tournament, 2 towns over. Gerald said he'd try to make it. Then he sat at his kitchen table and opened the calculator app on his phone. Saturday shift he'd miss, $50. Gas round trip, $18. Total cost of watching a 10-year-old play soccer, $68. He picks up the shift swap. He drives to the tournament. But before he leaves the house, Gerald makes a sandwich, turkey, off-brand, wraps it in foil and eats it in the car in the parking lot. 10 minutes before he walks to the field. He eats it in the car because there will be a concession stand and B will want to get something together. A hot dog, a Gatorade, the way you do at a game with your grandpa. And Gerald needs to be able to say, I'm not hungry, but let's get you something. He practices that sentence on the drive. I'm not hungry, but let's get you something. 4 times so it sounds easy, so it doesn't come out stiff. So a 10-year-old girl has no reason to think about it for more than half a second. B's team wins 3-1. She scores the second goal. She runs to Gerald and he lifts her up and she smells like grass and sunscreen and he says, I'm so proud of you, and means it in a way that reaches back through every shift he's ever worked. On the drive home, Gerald does the math. $68. Worth it, obviously. But worth it is a calculation, and the fact that he has to make it at all, that watching his granddaughter play soccer requires a rehearsed sentence and a sandwich eaten alone in a parking lot, that's the tax. Not the money, the math, the constant, inescapable math, the performance of not needing in front of the people you'd give everything to. That is a $2,500 retirement. Not in a pie chart, not on a financial advisor's iPad, in a parking lot, in a foil-wrapped sandwich, in a sentence you practice 4 times so your granddaughter never has to feel what you feel. If you're watching this at 35, 40, 45 and your chest is tight, good. That's not anxiety. That's your brain finally doing the math it's been avoiding. Here's what I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say open a Roth IRA. You know that. That's a bumper sticker, not information. I'm not going to say invest early. Knowing has never been the problem. The problem is that retirement math is kept in the language of big numbers and distant timelines, because big numbers create paralysis, and paralysis is profitable for everyone except you. So here's what I want you to do. One thing, tonight. Take your expected monthly retirement income. You can get your Social Security estimate in 4 minutes at ssa.gov. Then subtract healthcare, housing, utilities, groceries, transportation, phone. Every non-negotiable expense you'll carry at 67. Whatever is left, divide by 30. That's your number, your daily freedom, the $9.40, the $12, the $7.80. If that number is under $15, you are on track to spend your retirement the way Gerald spends his Saturdays. Not broke, not homeless, just performing. A one-man show called I'm Fine for an audience of everyone you love. Your number is still yours to change, but the pen doesn't stay in your hand forever. Do the math tonight. Not the big, abstract, paralyzing math. The small math. The daily math. The one that tells you the truth. Gerald fills the bird feeder every morning at 6:15. He built it himself. It's the most beautiful thing in his yard. $9.40 is not a retirement. It's a budget with a view.